So I recently made a 2-hour 14 video analysing every single safety car deployment since 2012. Now this video has done exceptionally well and has received extremely positive reviews on both Twitter and here on YouTube. However, what has been brought to my attention is this video was either too long for people to watch, or people have not yet had the time to fully watch it all the way through. So what I have done here is I've made a condensed version of this video, essentially a too long didn't watch version of my video earlier. And equally, in the comments of that previous video, I've been made aware of safety car instances that I have not included. So in this video, we will be going over those ones too. So without further ado, let us get on into this short review of every safety car deployment since 2012. We will firstly begin, however, with my missed cases of safety car deployments, with our first coming in Canada, 2014. Where on lap 69 of 70, Felipe Massa and Sergio Perez have a crash at the first corner. Where on lap 70 of this Grand Prix, the safety car is called. However, there is one lapped car in the way. This is Adrian Sutil. However, there are not enough laps to restart this race, and thus he didn't unlap. The next missed case to cover is actually a dangerous case from Germany, 2014. On lap 51 of the Grand Prix, Adrian Sutil's car comes to a stop on the main straight on the starting grid. On lap 52, 4 marshals can be visibly seen running across the track on the main world feed under double waved yellows. There is not a safety car deployed. Then very shortly after this, we can observe one of the marshals telling each of the cars to move further left. These cars are still coming around at racing speed through the double waved yellow section. No safety car deployed. Once this group of marshals start to push the car back, a plethora of other marshals jump over the race barrier onto the live circuit with still no safety car. So even though this didn't go to a safety car, I have to put Germany 2014 into our dangerous cases list. With our next missed case being Germany 2019, where Valtteri Bottas crashes with just a handful of laps to go, bringing out the safety car. However, as there had been 2 previous safety car deployments in this Grand Prix, the lapped cars had already been allowed to overtake. So in this safety car deployment, there were no lapped cars in the way. However, the next race is absolutely critical. This is Brazil 2019. Where on lap 54 of the Grand Prix, Bottas loses power and stops at turn 4. A couple of marshals then enter the track under yellow flag conditions to help recover the car. Just a few moments later, the full safety car is deployed. Where then on lap 57, every single one of the lapped cars is able to pass. There are 14 of them in total, with every single one of them being lapped once, but Robert Kubica is lapped twice. The safety car then comes in on lap 59. However, very shortly after this, the 2 Ferraris end up colliding on lap 67, with the safety car being deployed almost immediately. Now bear in mind that Robert Kubica is still lapped, as he was 2 laps behind when the lapped cars were able to overtake for the first safety car deployment. And he is at the back of this safety car queue. Where then on lap 69 of 71, with just 2 green flag racing laps to go, the safety car is called in without unlapping Kubica. Now this decision was driven more by the fact that Kubica would have had to pass every single car in the safety car queue to put him onto the racing lap, and then be given the time to catch back up to the back of the pack, which at that point the race would have finished under safety car conditions. However, the track was green and the decision was made to have 2 full racing laps to the checkered flag without having unlapped Robert Kubica. And then the final safety car call that was missed was Sakia in 2020, where Jack Aitken ended up spinning and losing his front wing near the end of the Grand Prix, with the safety car being called on lap 63 of 87. Then the lapped cars were able to pass. This was 6 of them on lap 65, with the safety car then coming in just a handful of laps later. So now let's go over the way that this has affected our totals at the end of all of these safety car deployments. We have seen 199 races as of 2012. There have now been 140 safety car deployments. This is 70% of the races elapsed, with an average safety car length for each of these deployments of 4 laps, with an average time given for each of the lapped cars to catch up being 2 laps. Then on 41 of these 140 occasions, there were lapped cars that were in the way. But then on 6 of these 41 occasions, they were not allowed to fully pass. And these 6 occasions were Canada 2014, China and Singapore of 2015, Bahrain and Brazil of 2019, and then Abu Dhabi of 2021, with the yellow highlighted instances being races that finished under the safety car, and the red text events being the races that didn't finish under the safety car. With our dangerous cases list rising by 3 up to 15, which is 10% of the races elapsed, with the additions being Germany 2014, Belgium 2020, and Saudi Arabia 2021. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in a little excerpt from my long 2-hour 14 video talking about Singapore 2015 and Abu Dhabi 2021. If you have already seen this short little clip, then please skip ahead 13 minutes. If you have not, then please sit back and enjoy this little excerpt. However, we get to Singapore of round 13, and this is where we have our first instance where lapped cars weren't fully allowed to overtake. So on lap 13 of the Grand Prix, Felipe Massa in his Williams collides with Nico Hülkenberg in his Force India, sending the latter into the barriers. A yellow flag is then shown 6 seconds after their contact, with the virtual safety car then being deployed 11 seconds after this contact. However, due to the high level of debris still on the circuit and due to driver communications with their team, the full safety car was deployed 348 seconds, which is almost 6 minutes later on lap 15. This is once again to give the marshals more time to clear the debris, which the virtual safety car doesn't allow. Where then on lap 17, the decision was made to allow the lapped cars to pass, which was just Max Verstappen. Where then on lap 18, the safety car was called in. There was no commentary in relation to Verstappen being allowed to pass. However, it was our second safety car deployment of the Singapore Grand Prix in which the lapped cars weren't allowed to overtake. So on lap 37 of the Grand Prix, a yellow flag was shown with the safety car being deployed 10 seconds later for a man walking against the traffic on the circuit. Now, because there was no actual collision or no debris on the circuit that caused this safety car, we expected it to be rather short. However, the decision to allow the lapped cars to pass was given on lap 39. Now, on lap 39, only Alexander Rossi, car 53, was given the order to overtake. And if I just pull up a screenshot of the leaderboards on lap 39, we can see that Alexander Rossi is running in P15, 1 lap down, and his teammate Will Stevens is running in P16, also 1 lap down. So we have this instance where it was just one of the selected lapped cars that was given the order to overtake. So this screenshot was taken 17 seconds after the FIA order for Rossi to pass was given. At this moment in time, he has not yet overtaken anyone. With the current race order behind the safety car being Vettel, Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Rosberg and Bottas. So we can see the safety car just peeling around the corner here. We can see Sebastian Vettel at the head of the queue, followed by Daniel Ricciardo, Kimi Raikkonen in P3, Rosberg P4, and we can't yet see Bottas's white Williams. However, in the middle of this queue, in P3, we have Alexander Rossi, 1 lap down, who has been given the instruction to overtake, and in P6 in this queue, we have his teammate, Will Stevens, also 1 lap down on lap 39. Now, after a quick little bit of internet research, you can find out that Alexander Rossi actually had no radio communications throughout this entire Singapore Grand Prix, so the FIA gave the team the order for Rossi to overtake. However, Rossi himself never received this order, so he made no attempt whatsoever during this period of time to overtake, because the order never came to him. What that still doesn't explain is why the order was only given to just one of the Marussia cars, as the radio for Will Stevens was working. So if I just pull all of this information away and we pull up this screenshot here from lap 40, the safety car in this lap message was shown 160 seconds, which is 2 minutes 40, after the overtake order was given to Rossi, which came on lap 39, 2 laps after the safety car was called. Now Rossi is still in 3rd place in the queue, having made no attempts to overtake, with Stevens still P6 and also lapped with no order to overtake. Now equally to bear in mind is there is no debris to clear up, so what we are now waiting for is for this lapped car procedure to run its course. Otherwise there is no need for this safety car to be out anymore, as the fan is now off of the circuit. So just at the back of this queue we can still see Will Stevens. He is running P6 in the queue, and just here by the yellow TV camera behind the infinity rear wing of Daniel Ricciardo we can see Alexander Rossi, again having made no attempt to overtake. So then from that moment in time the race was restarted with Alexander Rossi and Will Stevens still a lap down and still in the way, having not overtaken. So what I'm going to show now is just a small little clip from the Grand Prix of this situation unfolding.
Alex Rossi was running 15th and can now actually unlap himself. There he is. He's unlapped himself as far as Kimi Räikkönen has now got the leading 2 to go.
The great thing about the virtual safety car, we don't have any of this nonsense of unlapping.
What we're waiting for here is for Alex Rossi to unlap himself. Alex Rossi has been told he can't overtake anymore. Have they just lost a bit of patience with him or something? He's had the chance for about a lap and a bit now to get past Ricciardo and Fence, but he's not done that. And it means that we're going to restart Martin with him right in the middle, in the thick of the top 3.
And restart with him in the thick of the top 3 they did. So this was the first instance since 2012, since the introduction of this lapped cars could overtake rule being implemented, that there was an instance of lapped cars in the way, but they weren't allowed to overtake. Now there is a little bit of justification for this with the fact that Rossi didn't have radio communications, but what that doesn't explain is why the order was only given to one of the 2 lapped cars. So there is a small little precedent for only selecting a couple of the lapped cars that have been lapped. And so we end up now at Abu Dhabi, round 22 of 2021. And this is where this entire video has been boiling down to: the decisions made at Abu Dhabi 2021. Have there been any other cases to help support the decisions made at Abu Dhabi 2021, or was this a complete fluke and a complete manipulation of the rules in place to achieve a different race result? So let us take a little walk through exactly what happened in Abu Dhabi 2021. On lap 53, Nicholas Latifi crashes at turn 14, causing a significant amount of debris and equally leaving his car stranded in a peculiar place in which the marshals would end up struggling to retrieve the car. At this moment in time, there are 4 racing laps left of the Grand Prix, and just 15 seconds later, the full safety car is deployed. Now if I just pull up the track map, at the moment the safety car is deployed, we can see all of the drivers spread out quite nicely on the track here. We can see Nicholas Latifi stranded just after turn 14, with Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll just coming up to it. We can see the race leader here, Lewis Hamilton, and then all of the subsequent lapped cars. And we can see Max Verstappen, who is running in P2 on track, actually P4 in this safety car queue, with 3 cars between him and Lewis Hamilton. However, the moment the safety car is deployed, this sort of engages a lot of strategy calls, and a few drivers come into the pits, which sort of shakes up the order a little bit, and then when the safety car bunches everybody up, we end up with a new order. And that order is displayed on screen. We have the main safety car queue headed by Lewis Hamilton going down to turn 9 and ending at Sergio Perez at turn number 6. We then have a few of the straggling cars, Yuki Tsunoda, Mick Schumacher, Valtteri Bottas, and also a Ferrari, who are still trying to catch up to the safety car queue. And at this time, we now have 5 lapped cars between Lewis Hamilton in P1 and Max Verstappen in P2. This is Lando Norris, Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon, Charles Leclerc, and Sebastian Vettel. However, there are 4 other drivers that have been lapped, and these drivers are all behind Max Verstappen. But in the queue, this is Daniel Ricciardo and Lance Stroll. Behind the queue, this is Yuki Tsunoda and Mick Schumacher. Now this screenshot was taken just 2 laps before the end of the Grand Prix and 1 lap before the safety car was called in. And what we have observed from all of the cases that we have looked at so far in this video is that the usual case would be to end the race under the safety car. In all of the cases that we've looked at, when there have just been a few laps left of the Grand Prix, even if there have been lapped cars in the way, the race has ended under the safety car. Bahrain 2019 and then also China 2015 was another case where the race ended under the safety car with just a couple of laps remaining with lapped cars in the way. But once again, this comes down to our entertainment value factor. We still have a chance to resume racing, which would peak the entertainment value. But once again, we have to control the entertainment value's driving factor. We cannot let it drive the decisions. We have to take a look at the fairness and how we can apply fairness to every single driver on the grid, as the racing isn't just for the people at the front. The racing is for everybody on the track. So if I now pull up the official messaging board from the FIA given to every single team, we can see that the first message displayed at 18:27 was that the lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. Now this in itself would have been out of the ordinary, as every single observed case where lapped cars were in the way, they were always given the chance to overtake, bar the case of Singapore 2015, where they were given the order to overtake, but due to radio communication issues between Rossi and his team, the order didn't get to the driver. So had this order of the lapped cars not being able to overtake just continued on its own and nothing happened subsequently, this would have also been seen as out of the ordinary, as this would have been the first case in almost 200 races that this would have been used. However, what we end up seeing on 18:31, 4 minutes later, the 5 lapped cars between P1 of Lewis Hamilton and P2 of Max Verstappen were allowed to overtake. Now this, in all of the cases that we have looked at, isn't out of the ordinary. We have seen that one occasion of Singapore 2015 where they have only allowed select few lapped cars to pass, so this isn't out of the ordinary. But as we have discussed when we looked at the Singapore 2015 case, it is simply not the fairest way to do it, as in the safety car queue there are 7 lapped cars. There are 2 lapped cars behind Max Verstappen. And equally in the case of Singapore 2015, there was Will Stevens, who was in the safety car queue and equally lapped, exactly like Alexander Rossi. So allowing only a few lapped cars to pass isn't super out of the ordinary. What was more out of the ordinary was not allowing the lapped cars to pass originally. However, what happened next was the safety car in this lap message was displayed on the same lap that the lapped cars may overtake order was given. Now this goes against all of the cases that we have looked at so far in this video, where every single occasion that lapped cars have been allowed to overtake, the safety car has come in at least one entire lap later, and on average across all of the 40-ish cases that we have looked at, it has been 2 laps after. Now what I have to do is put down Abu Dhabi of 2021 into our dangerous cases list, as the track was declared clear after the safety car in this lap message was given. Now the safety car in this lap has to be given after the track is clear. Abu Dhabi 2021 is definitely a bizarre case. However, there is a precedent and historical reasoning to show that allowing select lapped cars to pass has happened before. However, everything else that happened around this decision has not happened before. We have never not allowed the lapped cars to pass. That would have been the first time it happened. And then equally, the safety car in this lap has always come an entire lap after allowing the cars to pass. Now, after looking at all of those instances, what exactly can we do to change or improve this rule? I came up with one instance in my long video which talked about just giving back the safety car laps at the end of the Grand Prix. However, in the comments down below, there were numerous other changes that could be made to the safety car rule. So what we're going to go over is 3 ways to improve or change the lapped cars rule. Where number 1 is to add 100% or a lowered amount of the safety car laps back onto our race total distance. Now this was what I brought up in my safety car video, where the pros of this, we can always ensure the circuit is clear and to allow the maximum time for the lapped runners to catch back up so the race can resume in its fairest possible manner. However, there is of course the con of the fuel. Now bear in mind that teams do not use their full 110 kilo allocation that they are allowed. Now, if we were to add 100% or even just 75% of the safety car laps back onto our race distance, this would simply become another race simulation variable for the team strategists. Where if you have a high chance of a safety car deployment at a Grand Prix, you will just put a couple extra laps worth of fuel in your car. Now, if there is no safety car deployment, you are then able to run your car in a higher mode and push that little bit harder as you have the fuel to burn. And if there is an instance where a safety car is called, you have then already filled your car up, assuming that there could be a safety car, so you are easily going to make it to the end. Now again, there is the con of the broadcast limit being 2 hours, as this would add an extra 10, 15 or maybe even 20 minutes depending on the length of the safety car. Now, way number 2 to improve this rule is that when a race is over 75% complete, any incident that is to happen will lead to an immediate red flag, regardless of the severity of the incident. Now, the pros of this is the race order will be maintained. There is then no need to worry about the lapped cars, as everyone then gets their new tyres and we have a standing start, with the lapped cars just where they are positioned in the Grand Prix. So even if someone is P16 and lapped and technically P4 or P5 in the safety car queue, there is then no need to unlap them, as they will just start P16 at the standing start, a lap down. We as Formula 1 fans then get a sprint finish with everybody on fresh tyres. However, there is the con that this final sprint could be seen as too artificial, or even in some late instances, far too short. So for example, if the incident that would lead to the red flag came with just 2 laps to go, would a 2-lap sprint really be considered fair? With the final way to improve or change this rule being to simply leave the lapped cars in the way. With the main pro of this being the race gets restarted quicker. We don't have to wait those few laps for them to catch back up and unlap themselves. The full race order is maintained, the safety car just essentially freezes the race in time and closes the gaps up between everybody. However, the cons of this are the drivers that are currently P2, this isn't P2 on track but P2 officially, will have to negotiate a lot of backmarkers all at once, not one at a time if the race was green. And honestly, I think that option number 3 of just leaving the lapped cars in the way is the fairest way to go about this. So if we have an instance where a safety car isn't deployed, P1 and P2 are going to end up lapping numerous cars. But if a safety car does come out, why do they no longer have to lap these cars? Why do the lapped cars have to be able to overtake? And especially seeing that allowing them to overtake actually gives the benefit to the person behind in P2, as he no longer has to negotiate them, whereas the P1 man already did. So I feel that option 3 is by far and away just the fairest and simplest way of improving or changing this rule. But there we go, there is my condensed version of my 2-hour 14 video analysing every single safety car deployment. If you want to go ahead and watch that, I'll leave a link to it in the top line of the description. Now, if you would like to become a member of this channel to gain access to exclusive badges and emojis in the comments, as well as top priority replies from me, then there is that blue join button next to the red subscribe button. Or equally, if you want to have access to videos 24 hours early, I do have my Patreon in a link in the description. Now, each person who becomes a member of the channel or subscribes to me over on Patreon will have their name displayed at the end of this video and a small little shout out as a form of thanks from me. But that is all I've got for you today, guys. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next video with whatever and whenever I decide to make it. I'll see you guys then. With a big special thanks to my first Patreon supporter, Elliot Crossan. The continued support from you over on all of my videos and over on Patreon is much appreciated.